Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Davis or Gerry Davis here, SVP of Sales Engineering here at Sandler Partners. Great to have everybody here today. Today, we've got a great topic lined up, everything about CCaaS and customer experience. I know it's something a lot of partners are asking questions about, looking at ways they can go out and sell these type of services. So the good news is we've got a great set of panelists today. We've got 8x8 with us, Dialpad, RingCentral, as well as Vonage. And all these suppliers have in common is they are a unified player in this space. And so what do I mean by unified player? Really what I mean by that is they provide not only the contact center pieces, but also they provide a lot in terms of UCaaS and even CPaaS and other parts and pieces to create an entire communications platform available for you and your customers. So again, let's get started here today talking about CCaaS and all things customer experience. Let me just quickly introduce you to a set of panelists today. I guess first up, I've got Tony. Tony, you want to come on up from 8x8 and just introduce yourself real quickly, name and where you're from, and have a little bit of fun, and maybe just a little bit about something unique or different, some fun fact that maybe most people wouldn't know about you. And you're on mute, Tony.
So focused on getting my webcam up. Thanks, Gerry. My name's Tony Poor. I work with 8x8. I manage our channel sales engineering group. I'm based out of Flagstaff, Arizona. I live here with my wife and kids, and I have been with 8x8 for about 4.5 years. A lot of experience in this space. Something that you might not know, you might not know it to look at my background, but I am in fact a musician.
Hey, wow. Well, I have seen the back of your studio there, so to speak, with lots and lots of instruments. So no, thanks for being here today, by the way. Thanks for 8x8 for sponsoring today and also allowing us an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what you guys have, and more importantly about CCaaS in general. So again, thank you today.
Thank you.
And next up, let's pull up our next panelist. Dialpad, you want to come on up, come on down to the stage and introduce yourself, Jordan, along with where you're from, who you are, and again, maybe the most important thing, give me a fun fact that most people wouldn't know about Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Yates. I am the Contact Center Industry Advisor here at Dialpad. I am hailing from the beautiful Northwest on this call today, and I am lucky enough to be married with 2 beautiful daughters, teenagers, so my house is exciting all the time. We are a definite sports-oriented household. I was blessed with the opportunity to play college football, but my daughters remind me almost on the daily that they got their athletic prowess from my wife, who actually is in the Hall of Fame of her college for volleyball. So my daughters remind me of that quite regularly.
So in this case, I want to play volleyball like a girl, right? Kind of like the old commercials used to say from a Nike perspective.
That's right.
Good deal. Well, I tell you what, let's bring up next up, RingCentral. Crystal, you want to come on down to the Price is Right here, and again, maybe who you are, where you're from, and most importantly, maybe a fun fact about you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Crystal Turnus. I am a account executive contact center for our mid-market team here at RingCentral. I've been with RingCentral for coming up on 8 years, and I'm located in Denver, Colorado. A fun fact about me that most people don't know is I grew up drag racing, so grew up at the drag strip here in Denver.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, and so you've been inside those cars and been down the drag strip and things like that?
I have, yes. Pretty quick off the line.
So don't challenge you if I'm on the streets with you, is what I'm hearing. So
we'll keep it to the track.
Well, I tell you what, it sounds great, and thank you, RingCentral, for being a part of this webinar today. And finally, last but not least, we've got Vonage. Tyler, you want to come on down and introduce yourself, and maybe again a fun fact about who you are?
My name's Tyler Smith. I'm an SE manager. I live in Salt Lake City, and fun fact about me is I have 3 kids, and all 3 of them, I've got 2 boys and 1 girl. The boys used to play football, but all 3 of my kids picked up lacrosse, and so now we spend a lot of time doing lacrosse, and boys have kind of given up football actually at this point. So happy to be here.
Nah, thank you for being here, Tyler. And so you're an engineer at heart, so that means you're one of the smart guys, right? So you can answer all the questions we've got today.
We can get technical for sure.
Well, good deal. Well, listen, I appreciate you being here, and thank you again, Vonage, for being a part of this. And speaking of questions and so on and so forth, I do want to make this very interactive. So if you've got questions, comments throughout the presentation, please post those in the Q&A section inside of GoToMeeting. So again, post those there, and we'll take those throughout. And what we'll also be doing is finishing up probably about 15, 20 minutes early. And then what we'll do is take Q&A throughout the presentation and then queue those up and actually answer a lot of those towards the end of the presentation. So it is intended to be a panel discussion towards the tail end of this. So keep that piece in mind. And you want to hit the next slide there. And just real quickly, we've had 5 different videos that were released over the last week or so. Anything from customer experience and how to actually position contact centers, things like omni-channel, workforce optimization, workforce management, workforce engagement, IVRs, ACDs, all that kind of good stuff, automation, AI integrations, and why those things matter in a contact center type of discussion. And just curious, how many have actually seen at least one of those? If you want to go and vote real quickly, just curious, how many have actually seen some of those? We posted those out on LinkedIn, so you should have seen that the last little bit out there on the LinkedIn, social media posts, things like that. So how many of you have seen at least one of those? Give you guys a chance to vote real quick. While you're voting, the good news is that they are going to continue to be up in our partner portal. So if you haven't seen those, we plan on doing much more of an education all about contact centers. So if you didn't see those, definitely check those out. But it goes into about 5-minute details about each one of those topics to give you a better chance to hopefully feel better about having conversations in this whole CX and contact center organization. I think it was what, about 70–80% maybe haven't seen those. So certainly check that information out if you haven't seen those. So we'll hit the next slide there. The other thing, just to remind everybody, today we're talking about all things CX and contact center. But the good news is Sandler Partners has an entirely rich stack in a lot of different areas. Anything from cloud compute, voice, UCaaS, even SD-WAN. If you're going down a contact center route, you ought to really look at the next generation from a networking perspective. Look at things like SD-WAN to make sure we get automatic failover, make sure we get optimization when it comes to making sure the contact center traffic is prioritized over other traffic. Things like security and IoT. So again, it's a rich stack that's available to you as a partner to be out and sell and go wide and deep within your accounts out there. The other key takeaways I want you to think about as we look at the panelists today, as we talk to these guys, is we've got a tremendous growth opportunity in this cloud contact center space. Did you know that only 85 to 90% of all the contact centers out there are still on-prem? So think about that for just a minute. 85 to 90% of those are on-prem today, which means it's a great opportunity for all our agents and all our partners out there to go out and have only 10 to 15% market penetration, to have a tremendous growth in this space. And Gartner also talks a lot about the fact that most of these organizations, about 75% of them, need to be upgraded substantially into the cloud space in order to keep up with today's modern applications. So it's a tremendous opportunity we all have in this space to make a ton of money at. The other piece is, just to kind of remember, is that a lot of times we're used to dealing with the IT directors. But in this space, in a lot of cases, you're not dealing with just IT. You typically have a CX type director or VP. You might have a contact center manager or director, or you might have like the director of sales just driving campaigns and making this decision as you move down into the contact center, into the CX space. IT has a place, but typically the decision may not be made in the IT department. So it does mean you need to go wide and deep within your account. So keep that in mind. The other piece is, you want to teach customers the art of what's possible with customer experience. In some cases, contact center managers are used to kind of doing things the way they've always done it. So making sure that they can not only, understand what they do today, but understand what's possible out there in this new market space and the new contact centers that are out there. We hear a lot about things like omni-channel and communicating not just with the phone calls, but also things like texting and social media interaction and web chats and all these other ways to contact and communicate with your customers. So if it's sold correctly, the good news is it may not matter about what the technology spend is. You know, did you know that over 70% of the cost of a contact center has nothing to do with the actual technology itself, but rather it's everything to do with labor. It's hiring people to man the phones, to man the chat sessions, all that stuff. So if you can do some things that increase overall revenue or decrease cost on the labor side, so what if you spend a little bit more on the technology side? I know a lot of telco agents are used to, you know, let's get a list of bills and let's try and lower costs, and that's really what the sales point is, right? Well, here it's completely different. So the good news is you can actually still make a tremendous amount of revenue in this space if it's sold correctly. And then last but not least, it kind of leads to my final point is, you know, as an agent, sometimes people are a little bit leery about bringing up technologies or areas that they're not real familiar with. And so one of the things I can caution you is lean on your resources like myself and the sales engineering team here at Sandler, or your sales folks there at the Sandler, or again, use suppliers and their expertise and their engineering staff, right? You know, think about it almost like a contractor type role, a general contractor. You know, if you're building a house, you know, you've got a list of experts from electricians, plumbers, you know, roofers, you know, painters, you know, architects, all these different pieces that go into building a house. Well, in a lot of cases, it's no different in this scenario. You know, you can lean on experts from both Sandler partners as well as experts out in the field with your suppliers, with their engineering staffs and their sales staff. They'll be more than glad to help you as you go down this journey. Next slide. I look at from a cloud and engineering perspective here at Sandler Partners. Again, I lead this team, and one of the things we talk a lot about is there's three main roles that we play in this space. You know, one is education. It's teaching partners like yourself, you know, how do you approach sales like contact center? Or what about cybersecurity? Or what about other areas that maybe you're not as familiar with? And so education sessions, both in webinars with one-on-one sessions, or even on-site type trainings, we certainly want to be able to do that for you. So if you have, you know, you're not familiar with how to sell contact centers, please see me afterwards or see with your engineer, and they'll be happy to lead you down these type of discussions. The other piece is assistance with supplier discussions. So that's a piece of it. And then lastly, if you need additional assistance, we're also here to actually be your engineer on, you know, over the phone or on site to help you sell these sets of products and services. So again, we're definitely here to help. And I love the Gerry McGuire slide, you know, help me help you, right? We're here as a staff to help you hopefully make more money in the process. So next slide. And one last thing from a resource perspective is we have a lot of automation and tools out on our portals and websites. So we've got things like Solutions Finder. So you can go out and give a list of criteria and it will narrow down which supplier probably makes sense. We've got things like a CCaaS landing page, and you'll see more of these popping up. But if you go to sandlerpartners.com/CCaaS, it's all things about CCaaS and customer experience and all the things that you can utilize to start conversations with you and your customers. And then finally, we have a marketing center that's out there. And I know the marketing team does a great job once a month actually demoing this product set. But if you're looking to get into the space, do email campaigns, maybe what to put up on your websites, social media posts, things like that, those sort of things are up there available to you with pre-canned type delivery of content for you. So stay tuned for that if you haven't looked at that before. And then last but not least, you want to hit the next slide. We have a great set of giveaways towards the end of this presentation. So stay tuned to the end. We've got a great set of, you know, giveaways from $150 gift cards, AirPods, to an Ember mug, and a Theragun from Prime. So again, lots and lots of great giveaways. So stay tuned to the end of this presentation, and we'll do some random drawings for that. So with that, let's bring up our first panelist. I'll tell you what, let's bring up 8x8. Tony, you want to come back up and spend just I don't know, 5 minutes or so with us and talk about XCaaS and CPaaS and CCaaS and all these sort of things as a service, and maybe spend a little bit of time educating our partners on what you guys have, but more importantly, maybe how to position some of the contact center space.
Sure, thanks, Gary. So hey, everybody, knock on wood, but it feels like we might be seeing the end of this this pandemic tunnel, and for a lot of us, the workplace has completely evolved, right? Probably forever. And one of the things that's really jumped out is how much focus and effort our customers are putting on the employee experience, trying to make it as efficient and as effortless as possible. And that's why 8x8 has introduced Experience Communications as a Service, or more commonly known as XCaaS. XCaaS is a cloud communications model that kind of blurs that line between unified communications as a service and contact center as a service. Historically, these have been two completely independent silos, and we're unifying that experience across the entire business. The goal is to give users a single platform. And that ought to be your mindset as you're talking with customers and prospects, right? You shouldn't have to have separate conversations about UC and CC. You should be having discussions about the overall experience, both for employees and for customers. In fact, I've stopped asking my customers if they have a contact center at all. I don't even make that question part of my repertoire because sometimes they don't even realize they have one. Instead, I like to ask how they manage the customer experience. What tools are they using to help them interact with their clients? How are they measuring success for those interactions? And how are they capturing the voice of the customer? Those are the types of questions that are going to uncover those customer experience opportunities, which ultimately translates into contact center sales. Can I get the next slide, please? So just like everybody else at 8x8, I get asked a lot about what sets us apart in the contact center space. Personally, I always get excited to talk about things like speech analytics or our quality management tools for digital interactions like chat or SMS in addition to voice, or even our customer journey mapping. But the reality is the biggest advantage we bring to the table is having a single system of engagement. That means your UC solution is on the same platform as your contact center. It eliminates those individual data silos and it streamlines your entire operation. In fact, Metrigy research found that having integrated calls, meetings, messaging, and contact center on a single cloud platform costs 56% less than having those same services provided by multiple vendors. Next slide. And that single platform approach not only decreases the total cost of ownership, but it also allows for things like having a single framework for administration. In a multi-vendor model, you're going to be setting up users in two systems. You're going to be building your integrations in two systems. You're going to be managing AI and analytics across two systems. But our approach puts all that in a single interface, and it allows us to offer a financially backed 99.999% uptime SLA across the entire platform, not just UC, not just CC, but everything. We also offer our patented geo-routing capabilities, which automatically directs interactions to the nearest data center, regardless of where you're sitting or where your agents are sitting. In fact, not only can we provide our full contact center solution to users globally, but we can also offer full PSTN replacement in 48 countries. And we've had a ton of traction with our solutions for Microsoft Teams. With over 140,000 Voice for Teams licenses sold, we're providing that Teams experience for both backline and frontline office workers, including contact center agents. Next slide. Actually, let's talk about Teams a little bit more. So many users are asking about Teams and leading with Teams in the sales process. I think there's something like 250 million monthly active users on Teams, and the majority of the customers that I wind up talking to at the enterprise level include Teams in some fashion. And because we have a direct routing integration with Teams, it means that not only can we avoid those complex installations like you'd find with bots or browser plugins, but it also means that provisioning a user applies across the entire portfolio, both UCaaS and CCaaS. And as you probably know, Teams requires a calling plan. So we can provide unlimited global calling plans. Ultimately, this means Teams is the experience for office users, as well as the endpoint for contact center agents. We're not modifying that Teams environment at all. Instead, we're augmenting that functionality and giving agents the ability to handle all different media types, as well as all the downstream tools like reporting and analytics. In fact, 8x8 Contact Center is the first CCaaS solution to be certified for Teams by Microsoft. Next slide. And here's another one I think is pretty exciting. We also recently announced a partnership with Google, and 8x8 Contact Center is now Chrome Enterprise recommended. That doesn't just mean you can run our software in a Chrome browser, although obviously you can. It means that everything you need, from the agent interface to the supervisor tools to the audio stream itself, can be delivered in a Chrome OS. In other words, if you have to hire an agent and provision a bunch of hardware, you can give them a pre-configured Chromebook and nothing else. No phone, no extra hardware, nothing to download, nothing to install. So if your customers want to scale up and down seasonally, but they have challenges buying all of the required hardware, we just slash their costs for them. So let's think about these last few features we've discussed. We've got Chrome support, Microsoft Teams, we've got global capabilities, and a unified experience. Everything is designed to make the employee and the customer experience better. And that's why 8x8 is the best choice for contact center, because it's not just about contact center, and it never has been. It's always been about the experience. and that's XCaaS. Thank you very much. Oh, Gary, this time you're muted. Still muted, Gary. I can't hear you. Nope.
While we wait for Gerry to fix his audio, thank you, Tony. We'll move on to Jordan Yeats with Dialpad. So Jordan, if you want to join us here, we'll move on to the next presentation.
Absolutely. And thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to walk you through the Dialpad solution. And one of the things I love about working with Sandler partners is they are so purpose-felt when they are doing events like this, and they invited these providers for a specific reason. And having sat through a few of the practice sessions, I believe I have kind of figured out why. You're going to hear a lot of similar methodology, and it's going to sound very close. And I loved hearing the 8x8 presentation and their XCaaS. Dialpad has gone to market with what we like to call TrueCaaS. When Dialpad started as an organization, our founders, being the founders of Google Voice, they felt like they could make a shift in the unified communication space. And they launched Dialpad. Great unified communications company, and they were doing very well, and that's the business that we were in. And about 3 years ago, they went on a mission to help unify the unified communication space with video conferencing. They saw where the world was going, and they saw the need to unify not only a video solution, but also the audio solution with it. So we purchased a company called Hi5. And in about 6 months, we were able to take that separate entity and completely tie it in and bake it with our unified communications company. And we were able to launch Dialpad meetings. Now that product and that offering has definitely expanded over the last few years, but they saw that that wasn't enough. And so about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, right around the time that we were going live with the Dialpad meetings, their next shift in focus was in the contact center space. And the reason why they wanted to do this is because the industry is asking for simplicity. The industry is asking for that single window or single pane of glass to simplify the way that they communicate, not only internally, but also with their customers or other businesses. And we have now launched Dialpad Contact Center and Dialpad Cell. If you could go to the next slide, please. We have done this through a few different ways. The first way that we did it is we built our own infrastructure. It made major advancements with our reporting, dashboarding, and IVR, but we also saw the need to make some strategic partnerships and purchases. So the first one that we did was in August of last year, we announced a major strategic partnership to round out our offering around workforce management, quality management, and analytics. We are doing that with Playvox, who Playvox, as I'm sure most of you know, is one of the leading providers in workforce engagement management. The other two big announcements that we have made over the last 7 months is we have not purchased one company, but we have purchased two. So in September, it was actually September 6th of last year, we purchased a chatbot built on the foundation of AI called Care Knowledgeware. Exactly 1 month after that, on October 6th, we announced the purchase of a company called Cupid. And in less than 6 months, it was actually about 5 months, we were able to take both of those products, productize them within the Dialpad platform, and they have been released as Dialpad self-service, and Dialpad DX or Dialpad Digital Experience. Those are both live products today, and the roadmap is looking bright here at Dialpad with the future. I went ahead, and if you could go to the next slide, please, have included a couple of screenshots for you to kind of wet your whistle. And I didn't just want to talk about product and that kind of stuff. So the last thing that I'd like to talk about, if you could go to the next slide, is I'd like to talk to you about an opportunity that we had that we got to work with one of our partners. This opportunity, when it came to us, was an automotive company, and the opportunity was specifically and simply for about 100 contact center agents, nothing more, nothing less. Our sales organization, engineering team, and the rest of our product quickly realized that this automotive company had a much greater need. It was only through our unified product or our TrueClass platform where we were able to very strategically show the organization that we have that one hand to shake, that one product that they could lean on for their entire corporate communication. When they did purchase those 100 contact center agents, but what our partner really appreciated is through those efforts with them leading the way, we were able to, at initial contract, sign right around 10,000 UCaaS and meetings products. I just went and looked in our Salesforce environment yesterday to get an update, and we have, since they signed, been able to sign an additional 5,000 agents up through both our unified platform and our contact center environment. So not only are we working with the partner to land these great opportunities that are unified under the TrueClass name, that we are able to grow the business as well. So call to action, if you can go to the last slide. I am here as a resource for you and your teams, but more importantly, Rob is also available. His contact information is on the screen. If you have any questions or need absolutely any help from us here at Dialpad, feel free to reach out to Rob and he will point you in the right direction. Thanks, everybody.
Well, Jordan, we appreciate your time. Hopefully people can hear me now. I know last time, I don't know what happened with the webinar, but definitely was trying to unmute myself. But again, thank you again for being here, Jordan. And it sounds like a great opportunity, again, for all the partners out there. Did you hear that? They started with a smaller subset, and then the UCaaS portions of that, so they had contact center, but the UCaaS portion almost became like, hey, do you want fries with that, Mr. Customer? So again, lots and lots of great opportunity to grow and expand that out because you had the full breadth and depth of the products that you guys had there at Dialpad. So great story.
Thanks, Jared.
Tell you what, thank you. And I tell you what, let's bring up our next panelist. I tell you what, RingCentral want to come on up next, and you want to spend just a few minutes with us talking about RingCentral, what you guys have to offer. I mean, you're kind of like the 900-pound gorilla in this space, and that everybody knows who RingCentral is, but don't necessarily always think about you guys from a contact center perspective. So talking about what you guys do there and the full breadth and depth of what you guys provide.
Perfect, thank you. Absolutely. So again, my name is Crystal Tarnas. Today I want to talk to you a little bit more about RingCentral and how we can help partner with Sandler partners overall. If we can go to the next slide, please. A little education on RingCentral. We were founded in 1999. We were essentially an e-commerce website, primarily for faxing capabilities. As we understood the market and what needed to, as businesses need to move to the cloud, we built our platform from the ground up for message, video, and phone into our UCaaS environment. As building your platform from the ground up, we understood how much research and development time that took to make a reliable, stable, and compliant platform. So as we understood that CCaaS was coming into the market, in 2015, we sent out an RFP to see who else is in the market, where can we lead in a CCaaS environment. We needed those omni-channel capabilities, the IVRs, the bots. We needed that partnership. So with that, in 2015, we partnered with NICE CX1, or NICE inContact, now NICE CX1. And through the time of being partnered with them, we built a global telephony system to help our environment with the CCaaS and UCaaS environment fully in one unified collaborative platform. With this, we've been able to build on-net connectivity so that it's a seamless workflow for the agents and the operations to go between your departments as far as UCaaS and CCaaS. And ultimately for the businesses, it's a one-vendor relationship from operations, billing, support to be able to support the CCaaS environment through NICE CX1 with RingCentral as a full. If we can go to the next slide, please. So over the past 6 years, 2022 now leads us into the next 7 years, we have we have built the UCaaS and CCaaS in critical capabilities of working together. What that means is we really approach the contact center as a value-driven research for the company. We want to make sure that we're doing a crawl, walk, run environment so that we can meet the customer's immediate needs. Maybe that's omni-channel capabilities, digital-first engagements with our 30 out-of-the-box channels, making sure that we can provide customers with the effortless customer experience to have their customers interact with them across any channel in any seamless environment. As they then move into the walking environment with our leading workforce engagement management platform, we really now focus on educating them into quality metrics, coaching and scorecard. How do we get customer surveys? Are your scheduling efforts manual? Let's make those automatic. Those are areas that through the time of contact center, we work with the tools in a unified environment to be fully integrated and provide one product for the effortless agent experience and increased customer satisfaction experience. Through the model that we have here with the NICE CX1 partnership, it's really proven customer success as we bring these to a unified platform. Next slide, please. So when we look at the RingCentral ecosystem, we're really looking at the 4 Ps. And the 4 Ps are what we primarily state here at RingCentral. Primarily when we're looking at the portfolio, we understand that Sandler Partners also has a strong portfolio. One of those Sandler mottos is best in class, best in case. RingCentral follows that same exact value. We are the best in class solution, making sure that we have the best unified solution with the partnered NICE and Contact CCaaS solution. Through the solutions together, we have then the best platforms working together. We have 14 quarters of proven 99.999, 5 nines of reliability. This means that really through the year, there's less than 5.3 minutes of downtime with financially backed SLAs on the UCaaS and CCaaS environment. With the global availability, we really want to talk about redundancy in this area. So one of the items that makes RingCentral unique is that we have the active environment for any sort of failover. If you're not really sure what active means, if there is any case of an incident that happens within the platform, we have an active environment that automatically transfers you over to the bi-coastal data center so that customers don't notice, if any incident that happens to the platform. Some environments are active manual, so it's something to kind of keep an eye out for. I mentioned the on-net connectivity a little bit earlier with the MVP and the contact center. When we look at that, we're able to make sure that minutes are not metered across the UCaaS and CCaaS platform. With our corporate directory sync, you can have cross-department collaboration, make sure that you can have transfer in between each department through the UCaaS and CCaaS environment overall. Another unique part of us is that we have a feature called Pulse. This Pulse communicates from our CCaaS environment over to our messaging app in the UCaaS environment to proactively provide you notifications that your SLAs are not being met or your agents are performing with behaviors that they're constantly refusing calls, so that you don't constantly have to be looking at a dashboard. We're going to proactively send notifications to you. Overall, when we look at the RingCentral process, we're looking at making sure that we can support you as a partner and that we have the team here to support from a project management perspective, implementation services. Our implementation team does all the implementation for the customers. We don't just hand you the tools and say good luck. We don't hand you training links. We make sure that we walk through each step of the phases with you to successfully deploy the project. With that, we also have a full channel partner success program too, making sure that you as a partner are educated and have the tools at your tool belt to have the best-in-class customers as well. When we look at the people overall throughout RingCentral, we're the unified support, unified operations, unified environment that provides a complete success model for customer success managers, technical account managers, and full support from Tier 1 to Tier 3 for the UCaaS and CCaaS environment. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate you being with us today. I appreciate the time you spent. And one of the nice things, I guess, is that you truly are unified, even though it's 2 separate platforms. When yourself and NICE in Contact, you guys have a complete system where it's really your engineering staff, your sales staff, a lot of your back-end folks actually help manage and make sure the customers take care of from beginning to end. Is that a true statement?
That is true, indeed.
Oh, well, I certainly appreciate it. And next up, let's bring up Tyler from Vonage. You want to come on down? And you want to spend a few minutes talking about Vonage and what you guys have to offer?
Certainly. Let's go to the next slide first. our primary goals from the contact center perspective from Vonage is to make things as easy as possible when we come from the lens of the customer as well as from the agent that's interacting, and then tie that data back into an environment, make it an embedded experience from many different CRMs we can support and embed that data inside that space, and then have a differentiated experience when we think about the analytics possibilities and getting into the deeper details of some of that data. So let's go to the next slide. Kind of how we get there is a couple different ways, right? The dynamic ability to support omnichannel, the fact that we can provide an embedded experience for an agent and for organizations using 4 different CRMs: Salesforce, ServiceNow, Dynamics, and Zendesk. The fact we can layer on the different applications that we tie back into that and can add to that different possibilities that are maybe some niche needs around things like an AI engine, or the ability to take next best action on some of these different environments. So we focus in on that with a couple different things in primary in mind. So let's go to the next slide. First, the angle from the customer side of things, right? So if the customer calls in, we probably all had an experience of calling in and having to give your number or your name or your account number a couple different times, right? Or you're getting transferred from one part of the organization to another, and you start that whole experience from the ground up. Our goal is to have that information transition, depending on any door that you come in. If you come in through an omnichannel interaction, or are calling in specifically from a voice conversation, or you've come in through a voice bot and been able to get some order status, and you need to escalate that information from those different types of things. Keeping the customer's lens and frame in mind, what they're trying to accomplish, and making things as efficient as possible, getting them to the right place the first time, and with intelligence mindset of what they really were calling in looking for. The other lens that we have that we focus in on is the agent side, making their experience easy, right? Using the tool that they're already operating from, the CRM that the customer data and information is already built inside of, being able to pop screen records and being able to give them access to get to that data immediately, as well the flexibility for them to work from anywhere, right? And we're all kind of still in a work from home environment, as Tony had mentioned. I think that's going to be sustainable for the next time. We provide the tool set for an agent to be as efficient working from home, or working remotely, or working from a hotel, or any place that has bandwidth, right? Capabilities. That's something that's important, as well as a global footprint. We can provide contact center agents and availability for folks that are distributed throughout the world. So let's go to the next slide. Some of the core features that we bring to the table, right? The fact that we are embedded inside of the CRMs that we talked through, right? So when it comes to an experience that an agent would have, they're going to not have to navigate away from that particular environment, right? So if they're working in ServiceNow, for example, call comes in, we're talking about a case that we're routing over to, the agent gets presented with that case information in real time, and then can store that data and those notes and the information around that conversation directly in that CRM. So the embedded nature of that, the ability to leverage our AI platform to take off some of the low-hanging fruit, right? If customers are calling in for maybe a specific status update on shipment, or maybe it's the concept of things that we can pull from a database, we don't necessarily need to wait in queue to have those questions answered. If it's an easy scenario, we can take off some of the pressure from our folks that and allow agents to be taking those interactions from the specific perspective. So let's go to the last slide here. So just to wrap this up, our focus is the customer experience, the ability to implement in a quick fashion, global possibilities, right? Having agents spread out throughout the world. We also back that up with 24-hour support, design this entire implementation and this entire experience to be built around the CRM of choice, and then always able to grow this possibilities and evolve things as new technology and new needs come to the marketplace. So thanks for the opportunity, and I think we're moving on to the question phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on board here, Tyler, and helping us today and helping our partners understand what you guys have. And we're going to now do the Q&A panel. So if you guys want to all kind of come back up on stage, so to speak, we'll start some quick Q&A. And one of the questions that came in just real briefly, just have each of you answer just real quick, maybe 5-10 seconds each. But what's kind of your smallest size you want to deal with? We got a question about maybe minimum size, specifically to Dialpad, but I think it's an important question for all the panelists here. What's kind of the minimum size that you guys typically work with, both on the UCaaS and or the CCaaS side? So RingCentral, you want to go first?
Yeah, we don't really have a size base. We really work across any different industry, and we have contact center agents that have one license with maybe some seasonality to it, up to thousands of licenses. So it's really just making sure that we can meet the model and solve the customer's problems to fit the license type.
Yeah, and maybe Vonage, you want to go next?
Sure. When it comes to the UC side, there's no deal that's small enough, right? Micro segment for us is 1 to 10 users. We are certainly happy to take that business. When it comes to contact center, there isn't a license need, but implementation kind of dictates that it could be expensive, right? The interesting thing is it costs about the same to implement 10 users as it would maybe to implement 100 users, right? So that can get really expensive if I start dividing that by the amount of users, but we have certainly seen customers that have the need for 10, and that's something we can support. So there's not necessarily a limitation per se.
Okay, and I tell you what, 8x8, you want to answer that as well?
Same answer, and I'm going to wager that we're all going to give the same answer. There's no minimum size. The thing to keep in mind is, you shouldn't go into it thinking, hey, I've got to prescribe a contact center solution for this seat, or maybe a UC solution for this seat. Go in trying to figure out how they're interacting with their customers, and from there we can figure out what functionality is needed. But yeah, we've got deployments that have 1 seat in them.
And Jordan, I'm assuming Dialpad, you guys have the exact same answer. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, Tony and the rest of the team is right. We actually have a VSB team that is stationed out of Austin, Texas, and they sell 1 employee to 10 employees only, and they crush it. And that is 1 to 10 employees total. So if you have 1 employee that does need the advanced routing and reporting and that sort of capabilities, then we'll set them up with contact center. If they just need phone system or a meetings platform, the flexibility is endless with us. So we will never turn away a partner that is only concentrating and focusing on those size clients, because they're an important group for us here at Dialpad.
Good deal. And just to kind of keep things moving along, I'm going to ask a question for each of you, just a little bit more specific into some of the areas of contact center. So first up, I know, Vonage, you talked about integrations with CRMs and things like that. Why does it matter so much to integrate with a CRM? And why should a customer, why should an agent care about something like that, to integrate with something like Salesforce, for instance? We hear about that stuff, but why should that matter so much?
Well, I think the major point is, first of all, Salesforce is expensive, right? So customers already put that money into the environment, and they want to leverage that to its fullest capability, right? So we want to meet them there and make sure that we're putting all of that, the information, the call metadata, which is the story around the, the time, the duration, all that information around that call, into that Salesforce inherently, right? So that we can then leverage that information in a couple different ways, both our contact center information as well as the customer data that they're operating from. So the idea of doing that in some of the other CRM platforms is also something we'll bring to the table, as ServiceNow, Dynamics, and Zendesk. The idea is, customers, we want to talk to people who have already gone down that road, and then we want to enhance that with layering, contact center over the top of the choice that they have already made with their CRM.
Yeah, so I guess at the end of the day, what it really means is that if I'm calling in, I'm Gerry Davis calling in, it recognizes who I am based on my DID. It can look that record up in Salesforce, know who I am, maybe what I've recently ordered, maybe some other issues I've had, things like that. So it sees everything about my customer record. It probably you can kind of educate or guess a little bit about what I'm calling about, what I'm asking questions about, maybe automate some of those tasks, things like that. So it's really great. And Crystal, maybe, one of the slides you had up there was, you had 30 different omni-channel type mediums. So maybe, why does omni-channel matter so much? Every single contact center provider talks about omni-channel, but But A, what is it, and why should I care about that if I'm an agent out there?
Yeah, great question. So when we look at omnichannel, we're looking at not only voice, email, chat, and SMS, we're also looking at the digital environment as well. So Facebook, Messenger, Twitter, social media, all social media, Google, any sort of those interactions. The goal of RingCentral with omnichannel capabilities is to make sure that you as a company are providing limitless possibilities for your customers to interact with you and having the channels that they want to interact on their behalf to reach the business. So being able to provide all of those channels in a unified interface helps the agent seamlessly operate, but then has your customers that can operate from multiple channels to make sure that they can interact with businesses.
Yes, I can start maybe with a phone call, then maybe switch over to a chat session or an SMS text, and all that conversation history is all there within that same conversation, no matter what medium I'm using. It's kind of like my teenage son, he likes to communicate via text a lot, and that's not my favorite medium, but yet I have to kind of meet him where he's at in a lot of cases, and we need to be thinking that same way with our modern customers out there today, and make sure we're meeting them where they are. So. And I'll tell you what, Tony, you want to go next? Maybe why don't we just talk about something you brought up a little bit is why does everybody care about MS Teams? What does your integration look like there? What is direct routing, and why should I care about something like that, for instance? So
lots to unpack there. I think a lot of people are leading with Teams because Microsoft went out and said, hey, you're going to get this free Teams license, right? So especially at the enterprise level, most companies have access to it. And there was this mindset that, oh, I can take advantage of it because it's free. What that doesn't really account for is the calling plans for Microsoft Teams, because you can call Teams to Teams user, but you can't just call out to anybody, right? So you need to have a calling plan that goes along with that. And that's kind of where the discussion typically starts. Now, that being said, a lot of companies have huge investments in Teams, and they want to use that as the interface for all of their collaboration. What 8x8 does with their Teams integration is what's called direct routing. So rather than have to install something on each individual user's desktop or do anything with a browser, what we do is we actually communicate from the 8x8 data centers directly to the Microsoft Teams data centers, so that when calls get placed on your Teams interface, whether it's for a UCaaS solution or whether it's CCaaS, those calls actually go out and are dialed through 8x8's calling applications directly to the PSTN. That means that you're still using Teams as your endpoint, and we're just augmenting all that additional functionality, but there's nothing that has to happen on the desktop. That integration is happening between the two data centers, between Teams and 8x8.
Yeah, and just real quickly, maybe 10 seconds, Salesforce.com, you guys do a great job integration with that as well, correct? I had a customer ask that question.
Yeah, we integrate with most of the major players. Salesforce.com is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, so of course we integrate really nicely with them. There's a ton of other integrations, as well as the ability to do custom integrations if you've got a homegrown application or you want to just use some small niche application for an industry.
Good. Well, I tell you what, Jordan, why don't you real quickly talk about maybe transcriptions and why you guys are so good at that, maybe some of the things that you guys do a little bit unique in that space.
Absolutely. So one of the things that Dialpad feels that we set ourselves apart, because I think all of you have heard, all these companies and organizations can help you one way, shape, or form. Then we might do things just a little bit differently here or a little bit differently there. What we're doing in the transcription environment is we actually are offering real-time transcription. Now, that is important for a few different areas. First area is it's really important that it's helping the efficiency of the agents, because we're able to take that transcription and use it when we are putting notes into different CRMs in different areas. So we help speed up instead of, what we've all been in the contact center, and, they've got their notepads and they're trying to write down, because some of them write faster than they can type, and then they have to go back and put the notes in at a later time. But really where I feel it sets itself apart is as the system is listening and transcribing the interactions that are going on, it's able to do two things. The first thing it's doing is it's able to flag and deliver the transcription to a supervisor or manager if the system feels, through parameters that have been set by the company, that the call might be going south, whether it's something that the agent said or something that the customer said that is not in accordance with what we want to have said, whether it's a bad word or just anything. The supervisor manager can then review that transcription and it sends them a link to immediately jump on the phone call and begin listening. And then they can chat. It pulls up the chat window. Because we are a unified system, they can message to the agent, hey, I actually think that the customer is asking about this, or I think they actually want to go in this direction. So we're empowering our agents to get the job done so that we can stop our customers from calling in and just immediately saying, you're worthless, let me talk to your manager. We want the agents to be the heroes in that story. And then the other thing that it's doing is it's also scrubbing the back-end systems of the company, and it's going to be assisting the agent and offering up items or things that the customer is asking for. If I call in, for instance, if I call in to Crystal and she's an agent, and I say, hey, Crystal, I'm actually looking for this barbecue sauce. Do you have that? The system will hear that, and it'll go in the back-end system and grab that barbecue sauces page, and it'll deliver all the information right to Crystal and say, hey, we believe they're asking about this. So Crystal doesn't have to go look through that knowledge-based system that we know is just jumbled with thousands of things.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. No, sounds great. So we can coach an agent along the way as well. And just had a quick question again, maybe 10 seconds. ServiceNow, do you guys offer an integration with that Dialpad? That was a question that came in.
Absolutely. So we have pre-built integrations that we have today and that we are growing, and that is one of those. In addition to, like Tony said, we have a ton out there, Salesforce.com, Microsoft Teams. I think one of the great things about all the providers that you brought on today is we're on point with those kinds of integrations.
Yeah, good deal. And one of the things to kind of remember, if you've kind of forgotten, is 70% of the cost has nothing to do with the actual technology spend that would actually come to you guys, but rather it's about labor and other areas. So the good news is, by pulling in folks like yourselves, you can talk about the advantages of going down omni-channel and transcriptions and automation, AI, all the integrations with CRM, Salesforce, ServiceNow, all these different areas, and increase overall revenue and or drive down cost. And then in some ways, the conversation is irrelevant when it comes to the cost that you guys have in terms of what the technology spend is. So that's a tremendous benefit to a lot of our partners out there, just to remember. But maybe I'm going to close out just real quickly. I know we're running real short on time, so maybe 30, 45 seconds. If you could kind of nail down maybe a question or two that kind of makes sense for an agent to ask. If I'm sitting, in a customer meeting and I'm having a conversation with a customer, what sort of question would you have them pose to try and help uncover an opportunity in the CCaaS or CX space? So maybe I'm going to kind of start. Maybe Tyler, you want to go first real quick on the Vonage side?
You bet. So, I think we talk about customers, and almost everyone has some kind of a need in the contact center space. I just like to find out what people are doing, right? What are you doing in that space? How is it working for you? What pain points have you been experiencing? What concerns have you had, right? Those types of conversations hopefully will open up the door. If the customer is not willing to share that, then they may have some reasons behind that. But that's generally where we'd like to start with that conversation, and just fact find a little bit with them and see if there might be a possibility for a need there.
Yeah, great points there. Crystal, you want to go next from a RingCentral perspective?
Sure. I think I'd like to focus on, tell me about the teams that you measure, trying to understand the different departments, different metrics that are important to the company. Then we can dig into some pain points. So kind of keeping it general with what do you measure and what's important?
Yeah, what you measure, how you measure it, what's important from a customer's viewpoint. So Jordan, you want to go next from a Dialpad perspective? What do you think is kind of some key points or some key questions that a customer needs to be asking in a contact center situation?
Yeah, so contact center situation, I think it's important that we focus on the areas that are keeping the organization up at night, especially the managers, the people that are in the technology day in and day out. What are the things that are troublesome with them? And then we will focus on what we can do to help overcome those outcomes. And then the important item is, like has been said, we need to make sure that they're not going to lose anything by making a technology change, whichever way it is. And so we need to make sure that we can not only hit the areas that they have today, but also fix the areas that are pains.
Yeah, and last but not least, Tony, maybe about what would you say some key points or some key questions that you think they should be bringing up in a contact center solution sell?
Yeah, the biggest single thing is don't assume that your customers have the same definition of contact center that you do, right? Like they might be thinking of a contact center as a bunch of agents in a warehouse with headsets. And so they think, I don't need a contact center solution, but they have an internal IT help desk or an HR department that does a ton of recruiting. Anybody who has customers could potentially have a use for a contact center solution. And we just have to define who that customer is, right? So I always ask what tools they use to manage those customer interactions, whether it's a software tool like Salesforce.com or a CRM tool like Salesforce or Dynamics, if they're using telephony tools, if they're using digital tools, find out what tools they use to manage those customer interactions. And from there, you're going to get a really good sense of how efficient that process is. Put yourself in the shoes of a consumer. You don't have to be a contact center expert to sell contact center. You just have to be a consumer. That's all you need to know. As long as you've been a customer before, you're an expert. That's what matters.
Yeah, I think I heard somebody once say, put yourself in the shoes of that customer. So maybe even, for instance, maybe dial their 800 number, go through their tree of options and how easy is it to interact with them, and maybe come prepared and say, hey, I dialed into your 800 number. I was going to purchase X, Y, and Z and went through this, right, an issue. And so I wanted to actually see what it would look like. So I think one of the other areas you can always do a great service for any customer out there you're meeting with is maybe dial their 800 number, figure out what it looks like, figure out how easy or not so easy it is to interact with them, and do a little bit of research as well. So again, I appreciate all of you being here today. We're going to now transfer over to the most important thing, and that's actually giving away some prizes here in just a second. So again, give it up for all these guys here, but appreciate you guys being here. And now we're going to do a real quick live raffle, so a real quick giveaway. And first off, let's look at spinning the wheel. If you want to go and bring that up, McKenna. We're going to give away, first up, let's give away the 100. Let's give away, first up, we've got Thomas Harder. Thomas Harder is our first winner. And Thomas, you just won an Ember mug from RingCentral. So congratulations on that. So Thomas Harder, make sure you get with RingCentral afterwards. I'll be glad to ship that to you. Next up, our next winner is Angie Bohannon. I'm not sure exactly if I butchered your name there, Angie, but Angie, you are now an Apple AirPods Pro winner from Dialpad. So Dialpad will be sending that out to you, so get with them afterwards, and they'll be glad to send that out for you. And next winner up is David Herbert. And of course, you get a 1 in 2 chance here, depending on what it is you're looking for here. But David, it looks like you are a Theragun Prime winner here. So again, from Vonage, Theragun Prime. You're a winner of that, so stay tuned for that. And last but not least, I think we know the answer to this one. Mary Leggett, you are actually a member here, or you're actually a winner here of a $150 Amazon gift card. So Mary, you're a winner courtesy of 8x8 for the $150 gift card. And then last but not least, I'm going to close this out by just mentioning a couple real quick things here. First off, we have a security tech panel on all things about cybersecurity. If you ever had an option or ever been in a cybersecurity cell and not sure exactly what to say or how to bring it up, we're going to talk about that on April 5th. Also, stay tuned for videos throughout the month on LinkedIn. So again, April 5th, there'll be a webinar on all things about cybersecurity. Also at Channel Partners, for those attending Channel Partners on April 12th, we've got our networking event at the Tao. So again, the Tao dinner, restaurant, bar area, we're going to be doing April 12th, our networking event out at Channel Partners. So all those partners out there looking to go to that, register for that, stay tuned, and you're more than invited to go to that. And last but not least, I want to make sure I mention that in 2022, our national summit is going to be in San Diego this year. So it's San Diego from September 14th and 15th. So stay tuned for additional details there. But we'd love to have you out there and participate and learn and grow a lot as a sales partner of ours. And last but not least, want to make sure you actually fill out our post-webinar survey. Your feedback is very, very important to make sure that we're hitting the right points. We're giving you the content you like in these sort of scenarios. So if there's a particular topic you want to hear about, additional information, follow up for some of our suppliers today, we'd love to hear from you. So again, make sure you fill it out. And again, Godspeed with you and happy selling, everybody. Thanks.